my friend along today, Claudia Humphreys. We're going to talk about the 5 mistakes that we made when we started our nonprofit. So I'm going to kick us off. We're just going to go back and forth. And this is not planned because we know what we did in our heart, like what mistakes we did. So we're just going to go. I'm going to start with me. The first one I did was when I incorporated on the state website. You see, every state has a streamlined process where you can fill out the form online, but you need to read the instructions because the instructions say if you plan to apply for 501c3 status, please obtain the IRS verbiage. So what I did was I didn't read the instructions. I went online, I filled out the form, boom, oh, I'm approved on the state level. And then when I sent my paperwork to the IRS, they sent me a letter back, which you may call a rejection letter, saying, hey, there was no IRS verbiage in your articles of incorporation. So that is the first mistake I made, is not reading the instructions. Please read the instructions on everything. So over to you, Claudia.
Thank you so much, Aretha. This is just such a hot topic because we know that in 2025, several of you out there are contemplating starting a nonprofit in this year. And one of the main mistakes that I made when I started a nonprofit was with my board of directors. I was so adamant and so focused on starting my nonprofit organization that I pulled in friends, and I really contemplated family, but I remembered that that may not be a good idea. But I didn't look at the type of board members that I needed to bring on board. I just grabbed people who were available and who would say yes. That was one of the first mistakes that I made when I started my nonprofit. So avoid that, everybody. Avoid that.
Okay, see, I was going to use that one too, so that's a good one. So we're not going to hash that one again. So the second mistake that I made was moving way too fast. Once I got my articles approved, I was like, I'm a nonprofit, which you are legally on the state level, but I was just doing things way, way too fast. I never had a plan in place. The plan was here, but I didn't have it in writing. I didn't have my strategic plan written. I had my mission, all the basic stuff, the board members, your mission, your vision, but not a real plan. And so I just ran without a plan. But honey, I needed to have a plan and to go back and look at what I said, because if I had a plan, I'd be like, wait a minute, I missed this whole step. I went straight to the end thinking I could, build this whole thing, when if you have a plan and follow the steps, then you're going to save yourself a lot of heartache, a lot of disappointment, a lot of stress if you have a plan. So that's the second mistake that I made.
And the second mistake that I made was I tried to do everything myself, by myself. I was going to be the wherewithal, the be withal. I was going to answer the phones. I was going to write the grants. I was going to be in the community. I was going to talk to partners. I was going to do everything. I was the secretary. I mean, that's the old term nowadays, but I was the administrator, plus being the executive director. In fact, when I first started my nonprofit, I didn't know what title you call individuals who run nonprofit. Later on, I found out that my title was an executive director. Mistakes, mistakes.
Oh, that was so, so good, Claudia. Claudia. Okay, we're in the third one. We're in the third mistake.
Yes, we're at the third
Okay,
one.
so because I can go on and on and on. A lot of mistakes I made. The third mistake that comes to the top of my head is using my own money all the time. Oh my God. I know we have to use our money to start it. So do the articles, file for the 501c3. Yes. But after that, I'm thinking, well, I'm not getting funding now because I just didn't know how to ask. So I didn't know how to fundraise. I didn't know a lot of things because I didn't have that plan, but I was using my own money for everything. Well, honey, I had 2 kids. I had become a single parent. And so you talk about kids, your own rent, electricity, lights, water, food, things that the kids need. And before you know it, I'm putting more money into a business because it was a business, even though I didn't really understand. My heart was in the right place, but I didn't have the money to keep doing what I was doing. And I'm gonna tell you, I got real lucky, because I know a lot of people will use their all and then get evicted from their own apartment, lose their cars and everything because they're trying to help people in the community. I got lucky because I got recalled back to active duty during 9/11. The situation was not a good situation, but it slowed me down from, like going into bankruptcy over my nonprofit. So that's my third mistake.
Well, you know what, Aretha, right in line with your third mistake is my third mistake as well. And that was, again, just mirroring what Aretha just said, using my own money. But on top of using my own money, I didn't have a plan to stop using my own money. I was just using my own money, using my own money. Whatever happened that day, if I had the money, I was going to take care of it. And the thing about it is I didn't use my business's bank account. If anything, if I was going to use my own money, I should have put my own money right into the business bank account and then handle the business's activities right from the business account. I just use my own personal credit cards, my own personal bank. Again, just making mistake after mistake after mistake. And then when it comes down to it, there was no accounting of it, no recording of the money that I was using. And there was no plan as to how and when I was going to stop using my own money.
Mm. So my fourth mistake, I was gonna tell you, you ever heard that term, trying to be big when little
Oh,
got you?
yeah.
We say when little got you, you know.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that one.
Yes.
I've heard of that one.
So I was trying to be big when Lil had me by the neck. I was, bragging about my nonprofit, but not bragging as if being braggadocious, being proud and sharing. And so the more people I shared, it was like, oh, they start sharing with other people about all the things that I was doing. But honey, again, I was struggling. It was a new nonprofit. And the word spread, people, if you're passionate about something and you start sharing and they feel your passion, then people will feel your passion. But I had no, I didn't have the tools to ask for
Yeah,
help, to
yeah.
ask for money, and to ask things like that. So I was out there looking like I was big, and Lil had me by the neck, as I said, and so that was my fourth mistake.
Uh, oh my goodness, Aretha, I so relate to that. My fourth mistake was I was running a nonprofit with absolutely no education about nonprofits. I'm thinking that this is just my passion. My heart was going to lead the way. It was going to give me direction, instruction, information, knowledge, wisdom, how I was supposed to run this nonprofit that I had started so passionately, mind you. Um, but I needed to get some type of formal education, some type of formal training around nonprofits, how to manage the day-to-day operations, how to manage fundraising activities, how to manage grant writing, how to do all, how to even grant write. I didn't even have any education around grant writing either. So it was just start a nonprofit, jump right in, no education, and wow, I was in for a rude awakening and a wild surprise.
My fifth mistake was not knowing when to stop. So what I mean by that is when I was running my nonprofit, Uh, I don't know if you watch a previous video, you'll know my story. I was on active duty, then I got off and started a nonprofit, and then I got recalled back to active duty. Well, I didn't know when to stop. I had to stop when I got recalled, but when I got back off active duty after 2 years, I thought I would pick back up and start over. Well, God had gave me a different vision for my life and for a nonprofit, but it was a different nonprofit. I wanted to go back to what I was doing before, but everything in me was leading me into a different direction. So listening to myself and following my gut and my intuition was my fifth mistake. Now I eventually, corrected, but not after some, heartache, some missteps. And I don't want to get too into that, but I started asking people for their advice. So having people around me, strong sound advice. So that's probably tie into so many other things with the mistake one, two, and three, and four. Making sure I had people around me who would help me, but really not knowing when it was time to give up that nonprofit was probably my fifth mistake. There's many more, but I'm gonna give it over to Claudia so she can tell yours.
Well, Aretha, thank you for that. My fifth mistake was just rethinking. Should I have started the nonprofit? Was I moving completely off of passion? Was I completely delusional about what a nonprofit was, what I needed to do, what I needed to have in place? Was it just an emotional decision at the moment? Just sitting back and not moving too fast to start a nonprofit was one of the fifth mistakes I would say that I made. I should have just sat back a little bit more, volunteered at another nonprofit to get a little bit more acquainted with what the process was, what it would entail of me. But I didn't do it. I wanted to do my own thing, my own way, when I could have and should have possibly just partnered with other organizations, even though I did make an attempt to do so, but I didn't press that attempt far enough to really contemplate starting a nonprofit.
Well, I want to thank my friend Claudia Humphrey for sharing her five mistakes that she made. And I hope you were able to gain some insights from hers and mine, and you not make the same mistakes. There's no need to make the same mistakes that we did. But if you're already in it and you see yourself in one of the areas that we have been in, just take a deep breath, stop, maybe reach out for a one on one or talk to somebody who's in that area, in that same sector you have, and get some sound advice. But either way, I wish you all the best in your nonprofit. Make sure you hit the thumbs up, like and subscribe, and leave your comment. We want to know how you're doing. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.